Thanks for joining us on The Real Story. I'm Jenn Bernstein. President Biden has chosen his Supreme Court nominee, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. Judge Jackson currently sits on the Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. She is a Harvard Law grad who clerked at one point for retiring Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer. She served as a public defender, which, by the way, no Supreme Court justice has ever had in their background. Her father was a lawyer, her mother was a principal, her brother a detective before he served in the military. In fact, she has other family members who are in law enforcement. Her nomination is historic. She'd be the first Black woman to sit on the Supreme Court. Here's a look at the members of the current court. President Biden had said since he was on the campaign trail that he was committed to nominating a Black woman to the highest court in the land if a vacancy came along, and a vacancy has. Last week, Judge Jackson began meeting with Senate leaders, both Democrats and Republicans. Her Senate confirmation hearings set to begin in about 3 weeks. Judge Jackson has already actually been confirmed by the Senate in 2021 to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit, where she sits now, garnering 3 Republican votes in addition to Democrats. She will be facing an evenly divided Senate. So joining us this morning to talk about the meaning of Judge Jackson's nomination and her qualifications is visiting Quinnipiac University law professor and retired Connecticut Superior Court Judge Angela Robinson. Judge Robinson served on the Connecticut Superior Court for 20 years, and she recently wrote an op-ed for the Washington Post titled, "History Shows Why It's Time for a Black Woman to Sit on the Supreme Court." Judge Robinson, welcome to The Real Story.
Thank you for inviting me to this conversation.
Of course. All right, so your op-ed was actually published February 1st, so it was before Judge Jackson was nominated. But Yes. It was a very interesting read going through the history of the women who've, you said, paved the way for this moment and the challenges that they faced. So why is this
Yes.
moment so crucial in that context?
Well, in the 223-year history of the United States Supreme Court, there has never been a Black woman. And in 150 years since the first Black woman became a lawyer, there has never been a Black woman on the Supreme Court. And as I said in my op-ed piece, there's a particular perspective that Black women judges bring that the court desperately needs right now. And so now is the moment, and now is a historic time.
You know, I went through some of her background at the beginning of the segment. No one can say she's not qualified, but from your perspective as a former judge, where does her experience rank compared to others on the court?
Well, it's amazing. She has a much broader and more diverse professional work life than any other justice sitting on the Supreme Court now. So she has been a federal district court judge, now a federal circuit court judge. Before that, she was a public defender. We don't have that representation on the court. She was also in private practice at many different law firms. She also served in the U.S. Sentencing Commission. So she brings a breadth of professional experience that the court has not yet had. And you've already mentioned the fact that she is a Harvard grad, undergrad and law school, but she also clerked on all 3 levels of the federal court. So she clerked for a district court judge. She clerked for an appellate court judge. And of course, she clerked for Justice Breyer, the justice that she is being nominated to succeed. So she brings a wealth of experience, and objectively, by any measure, she's eminently qualified.
We've seen the Senate confirmation process. It is grueling, as I said before. You know, everyone digs into your past, all of the decisions you've made on the bench, all of the decisions you've made off the bench in your personal life are under the microscope, and some would say rightfully so. These are lifetime appointment positions to this, you know, United States highest court in the land. But what kind of challenges do you think Judge Jackson is going to face?
Well, the good news is she's been through this process 3 times already, most recently 1 year ago. So the Senate has already exhaustively examined her record. But what a lot of people in the public don't realize is how detailed a record they get. You have to disclose every speech you've made, every decision you've made. They look at your personal finances. They interview people who know you. They check your references. And so to reach this point, you have to have a pretty pristine personal and professional history. And so obviously that's going to happen again with Judge Jackson. But like I just said, we feel pretty confident in the choice because she has just gone through this.
So any youngins watching this show right now, remember what you post on social media, because it could come back to bite you 20 years from now if you ever want to be a Supreme Court Justice nominee. All right, so I know, social media is a whole other realm, right?
Right.
So she met with Republicans and Democrats on Capitol Hill last week. We know that this coming week she's going to be meeting with more, including actually Connecticut Senator Richard Blumenthal, who's on the Judiciary Committee. So he'll be going through that process. Republicans, I know there was a quote from Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley, who had said that, we will give her a fair hearing, a dignified process. Republicans saying, unlike what they feel Justice Brett Kavanaugh and Justice Amy Coney Barrett went through. Interestingly, though, Judge Jackson has gotten endorsements from two conservative judges, and I just want to read what they had said here. Former federal judge Michael Luttig said, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson is eminently qualified to serve on the Supreme Court of the United States. Indeed, she is a highly credentialed and experienced in the law as any nominee in history, having graduated from Harvard Law School with honors, clerked at the Supreme Court, and served as a federal judge for almost a decade. Republicans in particular should vote to confirm Judge Jackson. And then retired D.C. Circuit Judge Thomas Griffith, who was a George W. Bush appointee, wrote that the Senate Judiciary Chairman and wrote to the Senate Judiciary Chairman and Ranking Member, I write to you today to express my strong support for President Biden's nomination. How much influence do you think these kinds of endorsements can have?
I think they have a lot of influence, and I think the choice that Biden made in picking Judge Jackson was brilliant, because we already see that she has gotten some traditionally conservative support, like the Fraternal Order of the Police, like the Republican mayor of Miami, and like these two judges. And I think grudgingly, some of the even senators, Republican senators, are having to acknowledge that she is qualified for this position. So I do hope that she will get at least as many Republican votes as she did last year when she was nominated for the circuit court.
Yeah, interestingly, the National Fraternal Order of Police, as you had just brought up, had a written press release saying that they fully endorse her because she is from a law enforcement family. She had two uncles who were in the police force. Her brother served in the military and was also in police work. I think he was a detective. I have to go back and look at that. Brother was an officer at the very least. So, it's interesting because the partisan attacks are certainly still circulating, as you kind of touched on. And whether she'll get those three Republicans to vote for her again, is the big question. She had, when she was in 2021, she had three Republicans who joined Democrats. One of them, Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina, had voted for her, although he tweeted about her nomination, saying the radical left has won President Biden over yet again. When he heard that she was going to be the nominee, he had been rallying for someone else from his home state of South Carolina. Your reaction to that?
I find it puzzling because he didn't think the radical left had mobilized when he voted for her last year. Maybe it's a little bit of fox in the sour grapes because his preferred candidate didn't get through, but I hope that he will come to his senses and support her as he did before.
There were comments about President Biden coming out and saying on the campaign trail that he was going to specifically nominate a black woman for this role. I know Senator Ted Cruz, before her appointment, had said that the president committing to nominating a black woman was offensive, that it tells other Americans you're ineligible, and that it was actually an insult to black women. Your reaction to those words? If you could talk to him today, what would you tell him?
I would say for such a well-educated man, that was a very ignorant statement. 93% of the Supreme Court justices have been white men. And there certainly have been opportunities that have been afforded to other groups that heretofore have not been afforded to Black women. And it took a special effort to make this happen. I think people don't realize that breaking barriers requires initiative and opportunity. And Biden provided the opportunity that has been missing. So I would tell Senator Cruz to learn a little bit more about the facts of legal history and look at his own home state and what they are and aren't doing in terms of promoting Black women in the judiciary.
And finally, Judge Robinson, I just want to get your personal reaction to seeing Judge Jackson getting this nomination. I mean, you have, a storied history, the 20 years on the bench here in Connecticut. What does it mean to you?
I have such pride in this moment as an American. I have personal pride seeing another Black woman get to this point. I have professional pride as a judge for 20 years to see a judge of her caliber promoted to this office at this time. And I have patriotic pride because only in America could we produce a Judge Jackson. And she represents the best of the values of America. So I am thrilled and I am looking forward to watching her career over the next couple of decades.
Judge Angela Robinson, thank you so much for coming on The Real Story and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you.
All right, still ahead, it's been a long 2 years for all of us and a roller coaster for our economy. The roller coaster not over yet, but ahead, we're going to take the temperature on Connecticut business with the Connecticut Business and Industry Association's Eric Getty. Where are we as COVID cases decline and businesses begin to drop those mask mandates? Plus, we're going to talk about a bill being considered in the legislature that the CBIA says restricts workplace communications. That's coming up.